Welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie. That's me, and Karl Jensen.
That's me.
So last week we went to the Smart Energy Conference 2022 in Sydney.
Yeah, had a lot of fun. So as we know, we're doing this podcast so we can do an intro with a joint podcast that we did with Nigel at the event, which was a great change to see how other people do their podcasts. And of course, we were totally outclassed by Nigel and his experience and skills at it, but it was good fun and a good learning experience for us.
Doing this crossover with Great Solar Business is really good. So I encourage anyone who enjoys it, gets some benefit, that you go and check out Great Solar Business as well. I think the podcast will speak for itself. We give a wrap of the show. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to do this with Nigel Morris.
What makes a great solar business? How can you learn from the past and prepare for the future so your solar business thrives? We set out to answer these questions and more. My name is Nigel Morris, and I'm the Head of Business Development at Solar Analytics. Welcome to Great Solar Business, proudly brought to you by Solar Juice.
Well, hello, solar friends. It's Nigel Morris here from Great Solar Business. I'm coming to you live from a room in the back of the Solar Energy Council Exposition and Conference, which we are just winding down today. And today, for something different, I'm actually here with two special guests who are also podcasters. G'day, fellas. I've got Luke and Karl here from Just Another Solar Podcast, just to keep things really weird. How are you?
Hey, Nigel, really good. It's really good that someone else has done the groundwork and prepared. No, it's been a really good show. I think the first observation is that the perception of this show is that it was a second-tier program, and then you come in here now and see that it's really a top-tier program. So I say congrats to the Smart Energy Council.
Here, man. Here. You're exactly right. This has been a really good show. We're all a bit exhausted, and we better get Karl in here too, because Karl's racing off to jump on a plane, as lots of people are getting ready to do. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Nigel. Thanks for inviting me and Luke along to be a part of this inaugural combined Just Another Solar podcast, Just Another Solar Business.
Just another great solar business or something.
Yeah, indeed. So I guess both of us have done some public speaking in front of, in my case, 400 people that I really didn't expect, and that was quite a new experience for me. I've met lots of people this last couple of days that I don't normally get an opportunity to see, so I've really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Oh, that's Trade Show 101. You got right there, isn't it? Meeting new people, catching up with old people. They're all the good things. Now, to intro...
Can I just interject, Nigel?
Yeah, please.
I want to say congrats to you as well, man, because not only have you made 30 years in the industry, yesterday you joined the Solar Hall of Fame, and congrats to you, man. We always go on about being veterans at, 10 plus years or something like that. But seeing yourself and some of the other guys around who are talking about, being back in BP days, even guys back to the 1980s, if it wasn't for the trailblazers like you guys, I imagine it was a lot harder slog back then. Whereas now, the path has been led and we're just building on that foundation. So congratulations, mate.
Very kind of you, mate. Thanks for bringing that up. Yep, it was a great way to start a conference, to get a little award and a tap on the shoulder like that with very esteemed colleagues, and pretty special day for us, because we had two people from Solar Analytics, which I think is the first time that's ever happened, to have two employees from the same company both getting a Guernsey and inducted into the Hall of Fame.
That's the second tap on the shoulder that you've had, Nigel. You also got tapped on the shoulder by the Australian Women in Solar group, and you're their mascot.
Some mascot. I like that. Yeah. No, really happy to jump in, and we'll come back to the Australian Women in Solar later, and some of the realities that we've seen around the show. Actually, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what a good cause the team from Wise how hard they're working. In fact, but I think we should start off, because Just Another Solar podcast. You guys launched that, about 6 months or so back?
6 months.
6 months ago, yeah, which is fantastic. And I must say, I listen to every episode. I love the show. I love what you guys do, and we've challenged each other here, listeners, to find some things that we like about each other's shows. And what I really love about Just Another Solar podcast is you guys are straight in. There's no mucking around. There's two of you. It keeps it really interesting. You've got a great lineup of guests, and you're dealing with really gritty technical issues. And Giles and I are not. We might be gritty, but we're not so technical. So I really like what you're doing there, and I just want to say well done and keep up the good work, fellas.
Thanks, Nigel.
Luke's done a great job of finding our special guests. Obviously, some people have come to us and asked to be special guests, and we still ask for more special guests. Otherwise, we don't get enough content going forward. So it's self-perpetuating. Started out with two blokes that were mates drinking beers on a Friday night over a Zoom, and clicked record, and we thought it'd be a good idea for other people to experience the sorts of things that we were seeing in the market. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so talking shit in the shed, and now you got it on a podcast. I like it.
We've just got to find someone to pay us to do it.
So I'd have to say you've got a similar premise for great solar business, and that's what I really like. You get some really good guests and you draw the story out of them. I'd say you've got a bit more polish than us. We're just like two mates pressing record with really cool guests, but it's a similar premise. We're trying to bring out the good stories, and we've listened through the catalogue. I was a fan of Solar Insiders, but this one is almost a similar flavour in that, the Eddie Springer one was fantastic, and Bobby McKibben, and you can go back through and see that they're some of the groundbreakers in the industry. And that's what I really like, man. So I go to the gym in the mornings and I chuck it on.
Well, that's good to hear. We put lots of people to sleep at night, I hear. It's a good way to get to sleep if you're not sleeping either. So that's a great way to start off. And the other thing that we were talking about, where's our notes here? Oh, yeah, that's right. So we should talk about the show. We're at day 2. It's been pretty successful. I did hear yesterday from someone that they heard that there were 6,000 registrations, which would be about right. It's about 3,000. I think both days looked about even to me. Did you guys get that same sense?
I'd say that both days had around the 5,000 or 6,000 people. People would have come for both days. Yep. Like any trade show, it's difficult to get around all the stands and talk to all the different people for the things that our businesses need. Certainly for myself, I've been on the Solar Juice stand for most of the 2 days, and the number of people that have gone through that stand is just incredible. We talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, awesome. And Luke, you and I were saying you had that the sort of two ways shows go, right? You're either locked to the booth or you're back-to-back meetings and you're back-to-back obligations, and you had the latter, right?
That's right. So it's a different experience. So there's pros and cons to both, but it is good freelancing because you can get around. It's almost like a school reunion at times. You see so many familiar faces. I think you recognise a big chunk of the faces, not as many names, but a fair lot of them. But with COVID and, I've been locked away in WA. I haven't been to a trade show since COVID. It's like a snapshot. So they're people you've known and their journey's gone further. So it's really exciting to hear what some of the companies are doing. Certainly manufacturers pushing the boundaries of what they've released. And it's really frustrating that I wanted to come here with a couple of announcements that are quite exciting, but they're not being released till into solar. So I begged and pleaded with marketing managers and they said, no, you got no chance. You're just going to have to wait.
That's the downside to the Australian shows quite often, isn't it? Because we're just ahead of the European show. So I've heard that happening many times.
Are you trying to line people up for the next Just Another Solar podcast already, Luke? When's this magical announcement coming out? You haven't told me either. Going to have to hurt you later.
Yeah. Actually, that's a plus from this for guys like us who have shows, because I bumped into someone yesterday I hadn't seen for ages. Oh, what are you doing? What's your new business venture? Blah, blah, blah. He gave me this great spiel about how he's helping solar businesses with his new thing. And I went, oh, you got to come on the show. So I found myself a guest yesterday as well. Today's for me has been almost back to back with a number of events. We'll come to one or two of them. Yesterday for me was Booth 101, like you, Karl. So I've kind of had a bit of a mix of both. So it's been interesting. And let's perhaps talk, because I'm sure, like me, you guys would have done a bit of a cruise of the floor, right? Looking for interesting things. Maybe I'll kick off trying to think of the things that were kind of most interesting and sort of new-ish. That wasn't.
How about notably absent?
Oh, yes, definitely touch on notably absent.
People aren't match fit, Nigel. That was very apparent.
There was that first night, the party kind of was a little bit explosive, right? It was that kind of, I haven't been out of the house for a long time vibe, right?
I got the impression, I was a bit frightened actually. It's a COVID hotspot, people yelling at each other and obviously getting sprayed at the same time. I thought to myself, wow, I should be standing outside. So I stood outside for most of the day.
Yeah, I think I saw you come to the bar at one stage with a mask on. Yeah, well, good on you, man. Good on you. You got to look after yourself. I'm going to jump to some tech because actually, and I didn't get to dig really deep around the whole show, but apart from the electric semi-trailer, which was just big and cool, that was very, very cool. But actually, the thing that actually struck me as the most interesting product that I saw at the whole show was from Delta, who do inverters and battery chargers, and had a big feature on electric vehicle chargers, and they had a V2G charger there that was one of their latest models that comes out, and I'm very excited about vehicle to load and vehicle to grid. So to see those products starting to appear, and in fact on that topic, almost everybody had something to do with EVs on their booth, right? There was just, you can see this wave just, bubbling up and getting ready to go. So that would be my call.
What needs the cars now? Yeah, that's all we need, just the cars. We've got plenty of chargers. Everyone's got a charger. We just need cars to go with them.
Where are the cars on the floor? They were notably absent.
Notably absent. We did have a visit from a technical guy from MG to our stand, and he's looking to launch a charger in Australia as well. I'm looking for someone to test it. So, of course, I volunteered for some free hardware.
And Nigel, something that you cover off in podcasts with Giles is political stuff. I mean, we tend to avoid that, but it's quite notable that there is an election coming up and there was a fair bit going on. Albo was walking the floor.
5 different stands are all bashing someone's drum. We need to vote for this guy or vote for that guy. That really actually surprised me. What are all these people here doing campaigning for the election?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And in fact, our booth was directly opposite 3 political booths with local independent members, and I did go to the morning presentation. I missed Albo's today, but I did go to the morning presentation and hear from a couple of independent members who were obviously trying to just make sure they were picking up those key votes from people on the floor. But you're right, there was a very strong sense that there was an election coming, right?
Were there new announcements, though, or is it just in line with what's been announced up to the conference?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was an inference yesterday that was going to be an announcement from Chris Bowen this morning. I didn't see it, but someone I met said, nah, there was nothing huge, except a commitment to, meet the stuff that we already know about. So no new announcements, no policies outside what we already knew as far as I'm aware.
I think there was one next to our booth who was basically campaigning that we shouldn't be voting for either of the major parties. And primarily that the Liberals, ScoMo, has done very, very little for the environment in this country. And of course, the current policies that we operate under with STCs, they date back decades now to Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd.
Right, yeah. Exactly right. It's pretty easy. History is forgotten so quickly, right? And I think they all monopolise on that. What about you, man? What was the best bit of tech you saw?
It's going to be something that I don't really have a lot to do with, and it was quoting tools. So once again, it was a snapshot. So seeing the likes of Open Solar, Pylon, all that sort of thing, seeing the evolution of how you were designing, and, it started being very much that you had to manhandle panels and do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself, whereas all the automation behind that now and shape calculations and generation estimates, I was blown away. It's not even the core business I deal in, but I got caught up at the stands and talking to people about it and going through the demos with it. And once again, you mentioned the EV chargers and the batteries, and really the conversation has changed from, hey, buy our inverter, buy our panels, to come on board, bring your customers, and we can take them through the whole journey.
Interesting you should say that, Luke. I had a chat with a guy, it would have been midnight, lots of rock and roll music going on in the background.
Frankie's.
And he said, Frankie's, that's it.
Did you guys do Frankie? Did you see my post about Frankie's on Sunday night?
Very long, way too loud, and what a hole in the ground. My partner didn't enjoy it at all, and we lasted about 5 minutes. But I did get to talk briefly about VPPs and how important they are, and how these energy companies are going to bring businesses to, or bring customers to us for use of the batteries that they've bought from us. And I said, I can't see how VPP stacks up just yet until such time as they're paying me 50 cents a kilowatt hour for my exported energy from my battery. I want to use it myself.
Yeah. VPPs, man. I went to the supply guys from Supply Partners did a launch on day one, or just day zero, actually, Tuesday, and they had a big pitch on VPP. And actually, at the Awise event this afternoon, I met a lady who's just finished a huge big research report into. So she's looked at all the other reports on VPPs, and I'm trying to get a copy of. It's public, so I really want to get a copy of it. And I said, "What's the short version?"
Well, you're the analytical guy, so you're the guy with solar analytics. You should have the data.
Well, we do have the data, and we've done a bunch of pilots. We did a synthetic project a year or so back where we said, well, look, we can synthesize. We can look at real data, real sites, and we can synthesize what. If you imagine there was a 10 kilowatt hour battery, a 5 kilowatt hour battery on all these tens of thousands of solar systems.
You mean imagine with maths and an algorithm.
Just maths. Just maths. So we synthetically modelled it, and then we could then look synthetically at what were the arbitrage opportunities that would have been existed, because we could look at the market data, what were the FCAS opportunities, and we could model the whole thing, and we could then calculate what would have been the returns, how much would you share, all those kinds of things.
So can mum and dad actually make some money out of having their own battery and selling it to the grid?
Well, that's the very third time, including this lady I only met an hour ago, she said, look, the net result of it all is about $200 in it. $200 a year, right?
That's the customer wins or loses?
Wins. So there's about a $200 gain, which is something, right? It's something.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, something is better than nothing, but it's not a big chunk of money, and there's a lot of complexity involved in that, obviously.
Yeah, well, if I want to invest somewhere between 15, 17, even bigger, put in a big system, put in my own batteries in the garage, 50 kilowatt hours, I want to see a return of investment, say 5%, something like that, and then you'll see people pouring money in.
You're exactly right. And in fact, the part of the study that we did then was a sort of a social study about checking the reactions of people. And our report's available online as well through UNSW. And you can see that the overriding conclusion there, and this is a social issue around batteries, is mostly they're early adopters. They're people like you, Karl. They're people like you. And they don't want to give away control of their battery. And that was kind of the overwhelming result that we got. The outcome that we got was people wanted to retain, they were concerned about losing control of their battery. They would do that for a price. And as the market changes, as we get out of early adopters, more and more of them will do it for sure, because they don't care so much. They're in it for a return, and as the return grows and the cost goes down, it'll get better. But materially now, the $200 is kind of a bit marginal. That was the conclusion I've heard from multiple people.
So, Luke, you've got a battery. How much do you reckon you've got spare to sell back to the grid on a day-to-day basis? You've got plenty of data. Well,
I mean, that's not our driver for the money. So for us, it's about self-sufficiency and also working in the industry. It's a really good sales tool. But a 10 kilowatt hour battery for our house, we're a standard house in Perth, 9.36 kilowatt system, where I think we're over 98% self-sufficient most of the year.
Right.
So
but you're using that battery then, right? You don't have spare to give away to a VPP.
That's right.
Yeah.
But during the day, when the grid doesn't really need the energy, that's when we're exporting.
Yeah. I think the other lesson that I learned, and that was what I heard from a lot of guys, and I've met some companies who are really excited about VPP, is there's a great story in it, right? There's a great pitch in it. So some of the sales companies that I'm meeting are super pumped about it, and if you bundle it up with a nice feed-in tariff and a couple of other bits of a finance offer and other stuff, then it starts to get interesting.
I like the idea of this dynamic pricing. So I'd like to be able to choose when I export it, and if it's $5 a kilowatt hour that they're prepared to give me, then I'm happy to press the button and dump the whole lot to the grid. But I haven't seen any platform that was really capable of delivering that yet.
So one of the other ways they're doing it is QCells has ArcStream now. And the way they're operating is a subscription. I think it's $29 a month. So when someone gets their solar, they can sign on directly with ArcStream. And then I think they get 500 kilowatt hours per month. If they exceed that, it goes to 26 cents. So I think that sort of offer, top to bottom, is what we're going to see more of, rather than, they'll be operating in the FCAS market and so forth. But it's really capturing those customers as a retailer, effectively.
Yep. And I was, again, it was great to hear something confirmed when I was speaking to this lady whose name evades me. I apologise. She was so tuned into VPPs. But did you know there's 20 VPP offers in the market already?
Wow. I had no idea.
Did you know that?
No, but I did find another solar company in Victoria who's offering 11.9 cents feed-in tariff. So that extra 2 cents for me when I'm exporting 15 megawatt hours a year is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so the export rates are a key part of the whole financial benefit of a VP at the moment, because there's so little value in the arbitrage or the FCAS, right? So it's more about an FIT. So imagine if there was some kind of software program that could analyse which was the best tariff program for a solar owner or a battery owner. Imagine if that was out there.
I tell you what, there's an amazing thing out there called the time switch that we can still use to turn on the most basic appliances that use lots of power.
I think that was a segue to solar analytics, just quietly.
Yeah, we have the technology, mate. We have the technology.
That's right. It was a subtle plug for Plan Optimizer, which is, I actually had someone come up to us today at the booth and I said, how are you going? Have you used this? He said, yeah, really love it. And I said, what do you think about Plan Optimizer? We launched it a few months ago, and he said, I saved a customer $6,000 a year by using Plan Optimizer to tell them which plan was the best plan. Wow. $6,000 a year. Huge. Massive, man. There is so much opportunity to get people to save literally thousands of dollars a year, just over and above their solar, but getting them on the right plan.
You just got to get that money for them to pay that money to you, Nigel, and we can give this game up. A couple of hundred of those, $6,000 a piece for them to pay us, and we're laughing.
That's right. We're all off to the Bahamas like we wanted to. Now this is good because it's a good lead into some of the conversations and the talks. I don't know about you guys. I always struggle to get off the floor or to get out of the meetings and to get in and hear some of the presentations, but I did hear some good ones. What about you guys?
Well, I can speak about the conversations I've had, and being a distributor, we speak to Andy McCarthy used the phrase co-opetition on our podcast. So I spoke to our competition. Some of them we do business as well. So I spoke to Rami and Andrew, spoke to, Liam, spoke to Matt Tibaldi. So all these guys, and it's nice to come here after a pretty tough Q1. The SunWiz data tells us that the market was down significantly, and they're in the same boat. So we're all riding this through. And there's friendship there, there's co-opetition, and it was good to actually go there and go, well, it's not just us suffering and our customers, it's been a nationwide thing. And it's something we can pull through because it ebbs and flows. We've seen this, even we've been around long enough to know that, yes, you do have your downsides and it's been terrible, but you can still be optimistic because the industry is full of great people, innovative people. So we're going to move into a period where it's going to swing the other way, but we're all in the same boat. And it was good to hear that for me.
I love that. And that's a very Australian unique thing, to have such mutual respect and friendship. We're a small industry at the end of the day, and to have that, an opportunity to benchmark like that against your competitors in a respectful and mutually respectful way is just wonderful. Why don't we take a minute and hear a message from our sponsors?
SolarJuice is Australia's leading solar distributor, providing complete residential and commercial rooftop solar component solutions. SolarJuice aligns themselves with brands that share their values of service, support, quality and value for money, like their panel brands REC, Hyundai, Trina and Longi, their inverters SMA, Fronius and Sungrow, along with the Tesla Powerwall battery. Check out solarjuice.com.au and let SolarJuice help you become a great solar business. Great Solar Business is also brought to you by Solar Analytics. From just $40 a year, Solar Analytics can help solar owners save an extra $400 by recommending the ideal energy plan. Solar Analytics, it's different. Learn more at solaranalytics.com.au.
Fantastic. And please do thank our sponsors. In fact, thank you, Karl, because if you didn't know...
I didn't pay for it, Nigel. So Andrew and Rami obviously see it as a good cause and a good thing for us to participate in. And at the end of the day, we welcome these opportunities.
Well, good on you, mate, and thanks for all the support. And listeners, do get out there and have a poke around at Solar Juice. Best talks. Now, I'm going to throw a little pitch here for a talk that I heard. There are all sorts of talks. There's technical talks. There's product talks. I really wanted to go to some of the EV talks. I don't normally go to the sort of headliner and the political talks, but I did go and listen to Saul Griffith's talk. And if you haven't heard about Saul Griffith and his re-electrify everything campaign, it's really worth digging into a bit. And he gave this talk about how they'd done this modelling where he lives down at Austinmere and had mapped out in incredible detail how much PV was down there, what the load was, how much gas was being used, and if they removed that gas and they added electric cars, and where could they put the PV, which houses and buildings could they put it on, how much could they generate, and if they electrified everything, what would be the change in the load on the local network, and what did that mean? As a segue to if we did electrify everything in Australia, this is what it's going to mean. And it was a really, really interesting result because it was 3 times higher load. Right, even with PV, and they could take a lot of it off with PV, and they could map that out. But really, really interesting. They're actually doing some really good thought leadership stuff. So I must follow up with Saul. I'd promised to have a chat with him. What about you, Karl?
That's an interesting bit of data there, Nigel. I watched a YouTube video literally a couple of days ago where they talked about if we electrified the entire American grid, took all of the petrol combustion cars off the grid, turned them to electric, it would only represent an increase in electrical energy demand of 15%, which over the last 20 years we've seen is easily something that's easily accommodated by the networks, and it wasn't sort of unfathomable amount of extra energy that was required. So to hear that it's 3 times, that seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is, and it wasn't 3 times at all times. It was just that on the edge of the solar window. That was the problem that you couldn't get around, and so more batteries was the answer. Great. Now, the other thing good one. So a Wise, worth making a mention to a Wise. I was very lucky and got invited to come up and speak as a bloke, the token bloke, at the Wise function after interviewing Bobby McKibben on the show a few months ago, and I tried really hard to have a genuine conversation with her. So we had a really good chat. I think, and so they had a really terrific function today. The thing that really struck me was there was nearly as many guys in the room as there were women, which was just wonderful to see. And I've made that point several times to people around the industry today that it's actually the guys who need to be listening into this conversation and seeing if we can lift our game a bit. You were that as well?
No, I had a commitment, though my colleague Erin Thorpe was there, and she gave me feedback on it. So I noticed in the networking events as well, the ratio of men to women has improved. So I reckon 5 years ago, I don't know what the number is, but it felt like it was 95% men. So it's really cool to see women in the industry who are succeeding, turning up to the events. But if I can put the ugly spin on it, after speaking to my colleague and other people and having a look around, I'm speaking to about 0.5% of the industry here. A woman shouldn't walk through a trade show floor on her own and get wolf whistled and propositioned on more than one occasion, and then she's left alone when she's with guys. And there's also some other behaviour that we've seen around the networking events that if I go to a networking event, I'm very social. I do put my arm around people and, you see friends and everyone. I smile a lot. I'm very friendly. No one takes that I'm trying to proposition them or indicate interest. One of the issues with women still in the industry is that they operate the same as we're operating in a networking environment, and that gets mistaken for this, she's interested in me or something else. So one of the people I spoke to came from oil and gas, used to go to conferences and said that never ever happened there because companies won't tolerate it. Wow. So that 0.5% and the companies who manage them need to tighten things up.
That's it's such a good example, right? And you know, I keep making the point that I'm a stupid middle-aged white guy that didn't have great role models for gender equality at all. The society wasn't like that, so I've got work to do to do that. I try and do my best to be a progressive thinker and to treat women with great equality. But the reality is that, you know, that kind of behaviour shouldn't be. It shouldn't be tolerated at all. It shouldn't exist in our industry. It still does, and we've got to work hard to do that. So I'm going to make a commitment on behalf of a Wise Right today to work with you, Luke, to go and find a couple of those people and have a genuine conversation with them about see if we can change their behaviour. I think that's a good outcome.
Idea.
It's another interesting one, Nigel. So I work with some lovely ladies at Solar Juice, and my boss, Dolores, actually threw her hands up in the air as a woman walked past wearing what amounted to being a shirt that barely even covered her backside. Look, I don't, you know, everybody knows me. I'm not one to tell untruths or cover up a story or blow something out of proportion, but I was genuinely surprised that anybody would wear that sort of an outfit in public, let alone to a trade show.
The other issue is that women who are wearing business attire are still getting the same attention as someone who's dressed like that. So if we can't fix it up and tighten it round, it's only, you know, that those fringe guys doing it. If we can't do it, in 5 years' time, we're going to be back to 95% of blokes because the women won't be comfortable to come, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, Luke, well, I've been at a trade show in Europe with you where two girls actually thought that Luke looked like Jason Statham, and they followed him around.
He does a bit, doesn't he?
They followed him around. They wouldn't let him go. They thought he was Jason Statham. So maybe, Luke, you need to dull down how good you look in public.
Now that's good. That's good. No, I think that's a really good conversation to have, and I know certainly, you know, as time changes, attitudes change, and you know the expectations of the community change, and you know it's up to us to adapt to that. And certainly, you know, it's very evident when you go to Europe that you know, they put girls in skimpy outfits on trade shows, on booths over there. It is, you know, quite a different world in that trade show world over there. And we'd sort of moved past that. You know, there'd been a real active move to, you know, really try and take that ogling kind of behaviour and showgirl thing away. And it's a shame to see a little bit of that slipping. I heard that there were some on one of the booths as well, so we might chase them down as well and have a word with them. Fellas, we're just about out of time, but there might be closing comments or things that you... do we cover inspiration? Is that what we were going to talk about? Something inspirational?
Check notes. Hang on. What have we got? Look, Nigel, a bit of inspiration that I got. So the session that I spoke in, sort of got thrown in the deep end a couple of days before. Can I speak about finance in the solar industry? So we had a 15-minute. Well, I had a 15-minute presentation. Some of the other speakers I was definitely humbled by. They did an excellent job, far better than I did. But one that stood out for me was Sophie Wright. And she was talking about the art of not discounting. So a customer comes to me and says, look, I really like your proposal, but I'm not so keen on the price. Can you offer me a discount? And she said, what I always respond with straight away is the best price that I've been able to put forward is what I've put forward. And that's because if I was ripping you off, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Do we still have a deal? She said she's never, ever had anyone say no.
I love it. That's great work from Sophie to drop a bit of gold like that. What about you, mate? You got a closing remark on what you've learned over the last 48 hours?
I've just been really encouraged. So as I said, it seems that those good players in the industry that I've had the opportunity to catch up with, they've all moved further down the road. So as much as we've had some storms through Q1 and it's been a tough industry, I'm still very optimistic and encouraged after coming here just by seeing the good people winning.
Yeah, so true, isn't it? So true. They're good people working hard too. The last session that I was in, I realised I was sitting there listening to a panel of guys who were just arguing for better solar. It was all they wanted to do was deliver better solar, and didn't matter how or what technology or anything else. Listeners, it's unfortunately we're out of time. Luke, Karl, I want to thank you so much for your time, fellas. Thanks for coming on the show.
Great to catch up.
No worries. Thanks, Nigel. I think Luke and I are going to just tag this one as one of ours as well, and we'll publish the same thing.
That's the plan. You can do your own outros in a second if you like, fellas. Listeners, that's a wrap. Thanks very much for tuning in again. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Great Solar Business was brought to you by Solar Juice, Australia's leading solar distributor. Solar Juice aligns themselves with brands that share their values of service, support, quality and value for money. Check out solarjuice.com.au and let Solar Juice help you become a great solar business. Great Solar Business was also brought to you by Solar Analytics. You can now offer solar analytics from just $40 per year by connecting it directly to Fronius and SunGrow inverters. No additional hardware required, just extra value. Solar Analytics, it's different. Learn more at solaranalytics.com.au.
So there you have it, folks. That's our joint podcast with Nigel Morris and the Great Solar Business podcast as a wrap-up of SEC. Well, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, like, share it around to anyone who might get benefit. And also don't forget to check out Great Solar Business podcast if you're not already listening, and check out the back catalogue. It's awesome. Thanks again.
See ya.